Hi, I'm Campbell Choate, and I'm here with Anthony Silvani and Wil Stephenson, and this is Beyond the Sidelines. LeBron James has just agreed to a 2-year extension on his contract for the Los Angeles Lakers for $85 million. Wil, what are your thoughts?
I think that this is a bad move for the Lakers. I mean, he's already like one of the oldest players in the NBA. I understand that he's the greatest of all time. I understand that he's like all of the accolades he has, but he's 37 years old. His production is bound to go down. And if his production slips even a little bit, you're paying a guy who's 38 years old $42.5 million a season, which in the long run doesn't make sense for the Lakers because they're also going to be paying Anthony Davis, so they're going to be cap strapped if they're not careful.
Yeah, but I think the one person they offer this contract to is LeBron James out of anyone in the NBA. He's the only person he would offer this contract to.
I disagree. I would definitely give this contract to James Harden because he reportedly declined a 2-year, $50 million extension.
Yeah, because he wants to go to Brooklyn. But LeBron James is one of the greatest players of all time, and the Lakers want to keep him there until he retires, hopefully bring them more championships. And I get it, you got to pay AD eventually. I think they'll have the money to eventually. They're just going to have to get rid of some players in the future.
They have to pay Anthony Davis right now. He's an unrestricted free agent.
That's a fair point. But I still think because it's LeBron James, they have the ability to make this contract.
I mean, maybe, but if it doesn't work, it's a contract that you can't move if he starts to slip in production.
Yeah, but he won't slip in production because he's LeBron James.
I don't know. I just don't think that it's a good move to pay a player as old as LeBron James, who already has almost $1 billion net worth, $42.5 million a year. Just doesn't make sense.
That's your opinion. I like it because it's one of the best players of all time. You keep him on your team, win championships.
In other news, the NFL postpones the Ravens versus Steelers game for the third time, hopefully being played tonight. Anthony, what do you think?
I think it's about time we get to see this game. I mean, the first time that these two teams played, we had a very interesting game with the Steelers winning. And now that we get a Thanksgiving one, it gets postponed until Monday. And then it gets postponed again until last night, and then it's postponed until today. I think it'll be an exciting game, even without Lamar Jackson playing. Yeah,
I think it'll be an exciting game. I think RG3 is one of the most underrated backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Because his rookie season, if RG3 was correctly managed from a medical perspective, I think that he'd have an MVP, and the Washington football team would have a Super Bowl in the last 8 years from when he got drafted, just because of how generational he was before he kept destroying his ACL.
Yeah, and at Baylor, he was just a different kind of player. He could break records when no one expected him to. So it'll be interesting to see if he can win tonight. What a comeback story for him.
Yeah.
The Denver Broncos are forced to play with the New Orleans Saints without a quarterback. So should the Broncos have been forced to play with no quarterback? Anthony, what do you think?
I don't think so. How can you expect a team to go into an NFL game without their quarterback and have to rely on a practice squad wide receiver? But I get it that the Ravens tested positive, like 28 people, and they lose their quarterback, but they still have their backup quality quarterback, and you postpone their games about 5 times. Why can't you do it for the Broncos? You know, and this is no bias. Why would you not postpone this game if the team does not have a quarterback? And then all 3 tested negative again yesterday. They were eligible to return. They could have moved the game back to Tuesday night and have them played then.
I mean, I think that they should have. I think it makes sense for them to not have to play with a quarterback. But from a TV standpoint, it's not it's an interesting game to watch because they don't have a quarterback. That sells tickets. That makes people pay to watch the game. That makes people go and find ways to watch it if they don't already pay for the NFL Sunday Ticket subscription or whatever they have to watch it on. It just makes the game more interesting by not having a quarterback, and I think it was more of a sales point rather than a safety of the players point.
Well, yeah, but then you look at like the fans. What do they expect? Do you expect they can't win a game without a quarterback that gets 100 yards total offense? The fans, they feel like they've been let down by the NFL this one because they don't get to see their team at full strength against a Taysom Hill-led offense that just didn't look good on Sunday. So if you give them Drew Lock, even Brett Rippon, they move the ball more than they did with Kendall Hinton.
Yeah, but it's also a disciplinary action against the Broncos quarterbacks at the same time because the Broncos quarterbacks weren't wearing their masks. They were breaking the COVID protocols, and it's like, hey, if you break our protocols, we're gonna make you play with a banged up team because the Ravens and all the other they followed COVID protocols. But the Broncos didn't, and then they got punished for it.
Yeah, but all three quarterbacks continually tested negative. And I get it, you're in close contact with your third-string quarterback in Jeff Driscoll, but because they kept testing negative, they should have been able to postpone the game until they got their test back again. If they test negative, then you play it when they're all healthy.
I mean, still, no, because it's one, punishment, and two, it just doesn't compute because you can't postpone 2 games in 1 week. If it's only one group of players, if it would have been the wide receiver core, I guarantee you they would have made them play without wide receivers. It just, and it showed how like they can move, like adjust after losing such an important position, and it's really at this point it's disciplinary. That's all it is.
I guess I just don't see. I guess because the Denver Broncos their record was 3-6 heading into this weekend, because they're not one of those 7-3 teams, 8-3 teams. They weren't postponed because they're not a playoff team. If this had happened to say the Saints, like Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston tested positive, they would have postponed the game. So that's what it all comes down to, is the fact that the Broncos had a losing record.
Another argumentative topic. Will, do you think BYU should be in the college football playoff?
I 100% think BYU should be in the college football playoff. They've been blowing out every team they've played. Zach Wilson has been playing amazing. He's a legit contender for the Heisman Trophy this year. And we haven't been able to say very many good things about BYU football over the last decade or so. And now that they finally just decided, okay, we're going to be really good. We're going to go as a non-conference team. They don't play any of their they don't have a conference, and they've just been blowing everyone they play out. And it's not like they're running up the score. They're just playing way better. They're just playing that good that it's not running up the score. It's just how they're playing better.
No, I think they got it right. I don't think BYU should be in the playoffs, because I get it, they're undefeated at this point of the season, but you look at their strength of schedule and how different it is compared to the teams like Clemson. They have a tough schedule. They got to play Notre Dame. Alabama got a tough schedule. All these other teams ahead of them. Even Cincinnati has to play a better schedule than them. And it's kind of like the UCF from 2 years ago when they went 12-0 and they were not recognized. It's just the strength of schedule and who they play comes into effect, and that's why I don't think BYU should be in ahead of teams like Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, even Texas A&M. Maybe have a chance. I just don't see them making the playoff because they're an independent, because of their strength schedule is so bad.
I think that, one, you're very much underrating the strength of schedule for Clemson. The only hard team that Clemson has to play is Notre Dame. The ACC is known for basketball, not football. Duke is not a good football team. Like, the ACC isn't very hard. I understand where you're coming from Alabama with them having to play Georgia, LSU, Vanderbilt, all the other, like, the SEC is the hardest division in college football. So I understand why Alabama's ranked number 1. I understand why Ohio State is 3. I understand that Clemson is 2, but I think that BYU could slide into the 4th spot. And Clemson is number 2 because of how good Trevor Lawrence is. That's the only reason. They'd be a top 10 team without Trevor Lawrence, but not a top 4 team.
Yeah, but I mean, you see with the ACC, all of their teams have actually been really good this year. North Carolina almost beat Notre Dame. They put them in a tough spot until they pulled away late. And Syracuse, they almost beat Notre Dame as well. Boston College almost beat Clemson. Like, yeah, it was out Trevor Lawrence, but they still almost beat Clemson. They led them the whole first half. So I think when you look at those teams and their schedule, I think it's just ranked higher and harder than BYU's. Its tough game, I think, was against maybe SMU. I don't remember who they played. And they blew them out, but that was their only tough game of the season.
I just think that, one, it's very marketable to have the BYU team, the independent team, playing super well. It's marketable. And if you watch the game, they don't make many mistakes at all. And if you watch the game, like other games, Texas A&M game or whatever, it's just not the same. It doesn't have the same excitement and the hype around it than as the BYU team.
Yeah, and I get it, because Zach Wilson is playing out of his mind this season. And you look at Kellen Mond, the quarterback at Texas A&M, he hasn't really been that good. But again, it's just the strength schedule, the opponents they beat, the opponents they play that have maybe like an 0-8 record at this point of the season. It all comes down to that, and I think the college football got it right with this one.
Next topic. Who do you think is the best rookie wide receiver in the NFL?
Well, in terms of production, I'm going to have to say it's Chase Claypool, because I think he's kind of turned into that number 1 guy in Pittsburgh, and he's kind of taken over. Smith-Schuster's kind of lacked that production last year, and then they go out, they get Chase Claypool, and he's just put up the numbers. So I think Chase Claypool, for me, has to be the best wide receiver in the NFL, and the rookie.
I think the best rookie wide receiver in the NFL, without any question or shadow of a doubt, is Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's just been playing out of his mind. He came in and filled the role of Stephon Diggs perfectly. He's the number 2 receiver that gets the same amount of looks as the number 1 receiver. He makes Kirk Cousins' jobs way easier because the number one corner is going to Adam Thielen. He just gets to be the second best receiver in arguably one of the most stacked wide receiver rooms in the NFL.
Yeah, but I mean, look at Chase Claypool's production. No one knew him, and then he had that breakout game against the Eagles. And then ever since then, he's just been scoring touchdowns on touchdowns. He had the game winner against Baltimore, which was huge. So I think Jefferson is definitely top 5 rookie wide receivers. But I would rather have Chase Claypool in the numbers he's put up this season.
I think that I would rather have Justin Jefferson because Chase Claypool has production because he's getting force-fed the ball. Justin Jefferson's doing what he's doing as a number 2 receiver. I mean, I understand that Chase Claypool is getting the touchdowns, getting the numbers, getting all of it. But I just think that Justin Jefferson he's way more flashy than Chase Claypool. And 2, he's more of a deep threat down the burn past you. Chase Claypool is more of a I'll go up and get the ball from you kind of player.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. Chase Claypool plays up to his size. And that's what Ben Roethlisberger is able to do, throw it up high and have Chase Claypool go get it. Justin Jefferson relies on his separation. And while that separation is good, I would rather, Justin Jefferson just doesn't put up the same amount of numbers. I think he puts up 20 catches a game maybe. I'd rather have Chase Claypool on my team with partnering whoever the number 1 is, because then you cover the number 1 with your top corner. You leave Chase Claypool making those routes on the slot and the outside.
I just think that going to your point, Chase Claypool is the number 1 receiver, and that's why he's not the best, because Juju plays better as the number 2 read. So they let Chase Claypool play better, and then Juju Juju Smith-Schuster is the best wide receiver on that team, but he plays in the number 2 spot. He's listed as number 2 on the depth chart because of how good he is as a number 2 receiver. You saw how good Juju was with Antonio Brown. And Justin Jefferson plays as good as he does as a number 2, but he could easily take the number 1 position from Adam Thielen.
Yeah, I mean, we said it. This is a stacked wide receiver class. I'm just saying, with Chase Claypool, him being the number 1 receiver in Pittsburgh, that as a rookie, that shows how good he is. He's taken over that spot. Because whenever Antonio Brown left, people expected Juju Smith-Schuster to take over as that number 1, and then Chase Claypool comes in and takes it over from him. So I just think that's how good he is, and he has the talent to be that number 1 receiver in Pittsburgh.
I mean, I see where you're coming from. He is talented. He did get taken later in the draft. Just Justin Jefferson is that highlight playmaker that you want, that guy that you want to be your future. Chase Claypool gives off Calvin Johnson kind of vibes, which is really good, top receiver of all time. But I don't know if he can sustain this production for his entire career, given that the Steelers aren't likely going to have a quarterback in the next 4 to 5 years.
Well, that's why you go and draft one. You get Chase Claypool, another top quarterback, and maybe next year's draft, and then replace him with Ben Roethlisberger, and then Chase Claypool still gets his targets. Whereas, Justin Jefferson has Kirk Cousins, whose play is inconsistent.
Yeah, and even with Kirk Cousins' inconsistent play, Justin Jefferson has still been able to put up numbers.
All right, last topic. Are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers real contenders in the NFL? What are y'all's opinions?
I mean, I don't think they are. Tom Brady has proved to us this year that he is a system quarterback, and he only works well with Bill Belichick as his head coach. You've seen it in Bruce Arians being a pass-heavy coach, wanting to throw the ball down the field every play, and Tom Brady just not having the arm strength to do it. And their defense is really good, but I just think that Tom Brady is what's holding them back as opposed to pushing them forward right now.
I still think they're I still think they're contenders because of how good their receiver core is. Obviously, you have someone covering the number 1 covering Mike Evans, and you got Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. Then cover by the number 2 and the number 3 guy. And Tom Brady, he's just got to, like you say, he's got to pick up on that deep ball passing. But if he picks that up, all it takes is a couple plays, and this offense is rolling. That defense, I think, is top 5 in the NFL right now. I think that if they can just get a win this coming week against, I don't know who they play. I think they're on their bye, actually. And then they go out and they win next week, and then they get a couple wins. I think they're still contenders in the NFC.
I don't think that they're contenders in the NFC because of teams like the Packers and the Saints. I don't think that we've seen it that the Bucs just don't get past the Saints. They're 7-4, and they have 2 losses to the Saints. So I just think that I don't think they'll be able to get past the Saints. I also think that the Seahawks could stand in their way, or even the Cardinals could stand in their way of becoming a contender.
Yeah, I see where you're coming with the Saints, but you got to remember, the Bucs destroyed the Packers. They picked off Aaron Rodgers twice, one going for a pick 6, and they just steamrolled them. And if they can get that number 5 spot and have to go play an NFC East team basically had a free win in the playoffs. You go on, you move on, gives your team some confidence, gives your team, Tom Brady some more confidence, and he's the greatest postseason player we've ever seen. He can go and win a game anywhere in the postseason.
Tom Brady is the second greatest postseason player we've ever seen, Jerry Rice. Put respect on his name. Also, I just think that Tom Brady, he's 43 years old. He's as old as my dad. And, not to diss my dad or anything, but he's not the same as he was 20 years ago. I think Tom Brady's the reason that they're not contended this year. If they had, I think that they would have more wins with Jameis Winston.
Maybe. But I still think they are because of their receiving core and because of Ronald Jones and how good he's been this year.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to move on to our X Factor segment where the boys are going to pick the winners for the following games. First up, Ravens versus Cowboys. Anthony, who is your pick?
My X Factor for this one has to be Marcus Peters. He's going to be covering that number 2 guy. You got Marlon Humphrey, who's probably going to be covering Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. And then you got Marcus Peters going to be covering Michael Gallup or, again, even Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. So I think if he can play big and shut down whoever he's covering, it'll force Andy Dalton to try and find those other guys. And I think that he'll have that big game against the Cowboys.
Yeah. My X Factor for this game is RG3. He hasn't played a game since he won a game in Cleveland, which was the year that Cleveland went 1-15, so a couple of years ago. And before RG3 got injured, he was an MVP player. And then he was just poorly managed by the Redskins at the time, the football team now. And I think that if he would have been able to be properly managed, that he would have had a Super Bowl and at least 1 or 2 MVPs. So I think that RG3, if he can get even half of what he was in his rookie season against the Steelers, that the Ravens will win this game. So that's why I have the Ravens winning this game.
I have the Ravens winning it too.
All right, next game, Broncos versus Chiefs. Will, who are you picking?
My X Factor for this game is McCall Hardman. We saw it in the last game. Patrick Mahomes just missed him on a couple of throws. He's the second read after Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill started drawing like double, triple coverage his last game because of how good he played. He had 262 yards and 3 touchdowns. And 202 of those yards came in the first quarter. So I think that if McCall Hardman can step it up, because he had a couple of drops last week, if he can limit those drops, that this will be a blowout for the Chiefs as opposed to just a win.
For me, my X Factor's got to be Malik Reed off the outside for the Broncos because he's been putting up some good numbers over the past couple of weeks with Von Miller out. He's been a suitable replacement. If he can just keep rushing the passer, make Mahomes, kind of get outside the pocket and just get to him faster, then I think the Broncos have a chance at winning this game. But I have the Chiefs winning.
Yeah, me too.
Next game, Bills versus 49ers. Who are y'all picking?
My X Factor for this game has got to be Cole Beasley. He's the number 2 read for Josh Allen because we know Stephon Diggs is a top receiver in the NFL. He's Josh Allen's number 2 with John Brown not playing up to his normal self. If Cole Beasley can step up out of the slot, make the catches that we've seen him make, he has one of the greatest catches of all time where he caught it behind his head on the helmet. So if he can just get open and get the ball and be a reliable second read, I think that the Bills will win this game.
Mine's going to have to be the 49ers wide receivers because they got to help out Nick Mullins. And you got Deebo Samuel, who I think is going to have a good game this week. If you can just get Nick Mullins into some rhythm, then I think you'll be able to win the game. Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne, they're all reliable receivers you can get. So I think that if the 49ers wide receivers play well, I think the 49ers have a chance with the upset this week. But I do have the Bills winning.
I have the Bills winning as well.
All right, moving on to game picks. Lion versus Bears. Who do y'all think is going to win?
I'm going to go with the Lions. I think Matt Stafford gets a shock.
I'm going to go with the Bears. I think that Mitch Trubisky just shows us that he's not bad, but he's somewhat good. I think that the Lions have just been struggling for way too long. They just fired their head coach, so they're pretty much learning a whole new offensive system. So I have the Bears.
Yeah, but if you look at some other teams that have fired their head coach, they have had pretty decent seasons. So that's why I think firing head coach will kind of vault them up. I think the Lions pick off the upset.
Next game, Bengals versus Dolphins. Who do y'all think is going to be the winner?
I got to say Miami. Cincinnati did not look like a team without Joe Burrow, and that loss is obviously significant. So I think Fitzpatrick, I think he's starting again. I think he'll go out there and he'll dismantle Cincinnati.
I also have Miami winning this game. It would have been an amazing game to watch if Tua would have stayed starting, if Joe Burrow wouldn't have torn his ACL and his MCL. Prayers up for Joe Burrow. But it would have been a good game before then, but now the Dolphins are genuine wild card contenders right now. So
they're still only one game behind in the AFC East.
Yeah, so I think I had the Dolphins winning this one.
All right, Saints versus Falcons. Will, who do you think is going to win?
I have the Saints winning this one. I mean, the Falcons have shown against their NFC South opponents that they're just not that great of a team. I mean, overall, the Falcons, they have all the pieces to be a good team. Just coaching and Matt Ryan having the worst Super Bowl hangover of all time and the issues with blowing leads. So I have the Saints winning this one.
I got the Falcons in an upset. I think Taysom Hill struggled against Denver, a good defense. He went off against the Falcons, which is a bad defense. But I think the Falcons, having lost this game 2 weeks ago, I think they're going to want revenge. Raheem Morris has done a great job ever since he took over. So I think Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley upset the Saints.
Next game we have is Raiders versus Jets. Anthony, who are you picking?
I got the Raiders. I think, even if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, I think they're still a way better team than the Jets. And Sam Darnold just doesn't look like a franchise guy there. So I have the Raiders blowing out the Jets.
I have the Jets winning this game, getting their first win of the season. I mean, it has to come at some point, or it doesn't. But Derek Carr and the Raiders played like absolute garbage last week. So I think that the Jets will be able to come in and if they can just get to them even a little bit, it'll be a W for the Jets. So I have the Jets.
I mean, we have seen these kind of downfalls for the Raiders. In the last 3 years, they start out 6-4, and then they end up losing 5
and
of
they
their last.
end up finishing 7-9.
So if they can win this, it'll be interesting to see how they finish.
Yep.
Next game we have is Jaguars versus Vikings. Will, who are you picking for this game?
I got the Vikings. The Jaguars have lost 11 straight games, or 10 straight games. They won the first game. They started out the season 1-0, and now they're 1-10, 1-11. So I have the Vikings winning this one.
Yeah, I have the Vikings too. I think Dalvin Cook will be too much for that Jaguars defense. And I get it, they stayed in the game with the Browns, but it's only because it's the Browns, and they play down to their competition. So I think the Vikings will blow them away. Dalvin Cook has a big game.
All right, Browns versus Titans. Who are y'all picking for this game?
This is going to be a good one. But no, I have Cleveland winning it. I think Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt go out and show them that they are the best 1-2 punch in the NFL, out-dueling Derrick Henry in the game of a good rushing game. And I have the Browns pulling off an upset.
I don't think it's even an upset to say the Browns are going to win. I have the Browns winning. They get Myles Garrett back on defense, which I think will be very helpful in stopping Derrick Henry. So I have the Browns winning this game behind a good game from Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I think Baker Mayfield.
Because I don't think their defense is where it needs to be.
Yeah, I think Baker Mayfield has his best game of the season there.
Yeah.
All right, Colts versus Texans. Will, who are you picking for this game?
I have the Colts. I mean, the Texans haven't been playing great this year. They lost their number one wide receiver in Will Fuller. He got suspended for 6 games for PEDs, and they just released Kenny Stills, who in this instance would be their number 2 receiver because Will Fuller's realistically a number 2. Randall Cobb was the number 2 there, though. And Randall Cobb's a slot receiver. So basically their starting wide receiver right now is Kiki Kuti, and I just don't think that's a good idea on offense. And the Colts have a really good defense that'll be able to shut down Kiki Kuti. So I have the Colts winning this one.
Yeah, I want to say the Texans because I want to see them kind of bounce back, but I just don't think that they can challenge anything. So I do have the Colts winning this one. Again, they lost Bradley Roby to PEDs as well. So I think the Colts and their number 1 defense ends up winning the game.
I agree.
Okay, Rams versus Cardinals. Anthony, who are you picking for this game?
This is going to be a very good game. And I have Arizona taking this one. I think Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins get back on track. Kyler Murray on the ground wins them the game. So I have Arizona winning a close one.
I also have Arizona winning. I love Kyler Murray. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I love the connection between Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. And if they can get Larry Fitzgerald back to be the number 2 wide receiver, I love Christian Kirk. He's a really good receiver. But I think that Larry Fitzgerald is better than him just because Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles in his career than drops as a wide receiver in the NFL. And he's been playing for almost as long as I've been alive. So
yeah, he's one of the most reliable guys if you get him back after. That's why they didn't beat the Patriots, I think, because they didn't have that guy in Larry Fitzgerald.
Exactly. They didn't have that consistent, if we throw you the ball, you're going to catch it. So I have the Cardinals.
All right, next game, Giants versus Seahawks. Will, who are you picking?
I have to pick the Seahawks because the Giants don't have a starting quarterback. They have Colt McCoy. And they lost Saquon Barkley earlier in the season to a torn ACL. And their starting running back right now is Wayne Gallman Jr. I just don't like that matchup against the Seahawks defensive line.
I think Seattle will win it, but I think it'll be closer than you think. I think Wayne Gallman, because of how bad that Seattle defense is, will have a good game. He's going to have to lead them. because without Daniel Jones, they don't really have much of an offense. Their defense is still good, but I think Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett will be too much. And I think Seattle pulls out a close one.
I agree. I think Seattle's going to blow them out, and I don't think it's going to be close. But we agree on who's winning. That's about it.
Yeah.
Okay, Eagles versus Packers. Anthony, who are you picking for this game?
Packers are going to blow the Eagles away. Carson Wentz just does not look like a quarterback that is having a horrible hangover. He's just turnover prone. So I have Aaron Rodgers going off against the Eagles, winning it big.
I think that it's going to be a closer game than you think because the Eagles' defense actually isn't that terrible. It's the offense that's the problem. Actually, no, it's not the offense. It's Carson Wentz that's the problem, and Doug Peterson that's the problem. Because Doug Peterson has been taking away snaps from Travis Fulgham and giving them to Alshon Jeffrey, which just doesn't make sense because Travis Fulgham was up on the rise, best receiver on the team, and now he's getting less snaps because Alshon Jeffrey came back, and Alshon Jeffrey just has a bigger contract than him. So I still have the Packers winning, but if the Eagles start Jalen Hurts, which I know they won't, the Eagles would win. So I have the Packers winning.
But you said again, the offense is the problem, and that is the problem. If Carson Wentz keeps throwing turnovers, putting Green Bay in short fields, their defense won't be able to stop them. So that's why I have the Packers blowing them away.
Yeah.
Okay, Patriots versus Chargers. Will, who are you picking for this game?
Give me the Chargers. Justin Herbert has been having a great start to his career. I mean, he has a bunch of losses, but I don't put the losses on him. I put the losses on Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn is not a good head coach in the NFL. His clutch time play calling is literally worse than mine in Madden. So I think that I have the Chargers winning this one.
Yeah, I got the Chargers winning too. Cam Newton struggled bad against Arizona and still won the game. But I think because of how he threw under 100 yards, and Justin Herbert's got those weapons, and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, even Austin Eckler coming back. So I got the Chargers winning this one.
All right, wrapping it up here, Washington versus Pittsburgh. Anthony, who are you picking for this game?
I want to say Washington so bad. Because of how good their defense is. It's very underrated, number one pass defense in the NFL. And Antonio Gibson, he's a very good running back in Washington. But I think that Pittsburgh, it will be too much for Alex Smith. Their defense with TJ Watt coming off the edge will be too much for Alex Smith to handle. And I think Pittsburgh wins this one.
I have the Washington football team winning this game. I mean, Alex Smith has shown that if he can just game manage and not turn the ball over, he can do it. And I think that he'll be able to not turn the ball over this week. Just get the ball to Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, even Peyton Barber is a solid receiver. And then their defense has just been outstanding. And Pittsburgh offensive line is just getting old and slow. They've just relied on that offensive line for so long, and I think Chase Young is just going to destroy Ben Roethlisberger in the pocket.
You got to remember, the Washington front line, they have 7 first-round picks in that Washington front line on the defensive side. But I still think that Roethlisberger, he's got a quick release. And he's got Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster, so I think they win this game.
I disagree with you. I think it's going to be the Washington football
It'll be a close game, but I have Pittsburgh pulling it up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I'm Campbell Choate, and this was Anthony Silvani and Wil Stephenson, and that was Beyond the Sidelines.
See you next week.
Time.